Okay. Hi, Miss Jessie.
Hello.
Hi. Could you tell us your full name and what you teach and what grade level?
My full name is Jessie Nord, and I teach a kinder through second mod severe special day class.
Okay. Well, thank you again for your time, and I'm going to start with the questions.
Perfect.
Okay. Number one, how do you assess a student in the beginning of school to see the student's knowledge, and how do you base the curriculum on what the child needs to further learn?
So I teach a mod severe class, so most students are on the alternate curriculum. So most traditional assessments don't really apply. You know, when you pull up a benchmark or a UCI, the curriculum we use, it doesn't necessarily work. So at the beginning of the year, I always send out a parent survey to find out kind of where a child is at and review their IEPs. And I think once we're in the classroom, it's really kind of hands-on throughout the day observation, and it's informal assessment of, we're eating snack and you have a blue bowl and a green bowl, and you ask the student to find the green bowl, and how old are you, and that's how you kind of understand their understanding of numbers and letters at the very beginning, especially when they come to us in kindergarten.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Number two, what type of different assessment strategies are prompted, and how do you collect the data? I think
Oof,
that's
prompting during assessments is tough because a lot of times our kids need that support, even if it's attention redirection or, focusing, on just these two instead of those three. So I definitely am a big believer in wait time. So I definitely start with presenting it, waiting to see if the child is engaging with the assessment, because some of my kids have a lot more skills and we can use benchmark or a more traditional assessment, and so I always want to wait and see, and we have to just kind of be patient. And a lot of times you can see if a student immediately doesn't care, then we're gonna redirect them and we're gonna have to begin the prompting hierarchy. But I definitely try, if a student is looking and you can see the wheels turning, I try to wait as long as I can. And then I start with as subtle as, the lowest prompting hierarchy as possible. So if it's just kind of, remember, look at the page, look right here, this is where we're paying attention, or reducing the field on the page. Sometimes I'll hold, a paper to block the other answers that aren't there. So it depends but I absolutely start lowest and then get highest. And at a certain point, I'm a big believer in, if a child has to be prompted through it, it's not valid, and let's just try something else.
Oh, nice. Number three, how does your classroom setting reflect the knowledge, cultural experiences, and language practices of your student?
Oh, that's a great question. I think my classroom is very messy, so it definitely is part of my brain. But I think that if a class is too perfect, kids aren't learning enough, especially with mod severe. And Janet, I understand, for pretty classes, kids are pretty independent, but I believe that when kids are exploring and learning, and diving into things, that's when they're learning. They're learning through play skills, through social skills, also through academics. But I think when kids are cutting and coloring and crayons, and we want structure and we want routine, but at the same time, I think that messy is good. We have visuals everywhere. We try to celebrate as many holidays as we can. I always, like I mentioned, do a survey with parents of what your practices at home are, so that they can always be reflected in the classroom. And at my old site, not as much here, I would invite parents in. If there was a holiday I didn't know about, I would say, can you please come and teach us a lesson? And we had the most gorgeous lesson on Chinese New Year from one of my Chinese families. And we had one on Ethiopian culture. And I think that's diversity and inclusion breeds more learning.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Number four, during these unpredictable times, how have you created a physical and a virtual learning environment that promotes student learning and encourages social development?
As you can see, I do not have a cute background and a cute calendar or anything like that. My kids really need a lot of big visuals. And so everything I do is through Google Slides, and we present and we still do music. And I was literally, right before we got on the call, making our Valentine's projects, because I love when we can be doing the same thing together, even if we're not together. We do cooking on Fridays. We do our social emotional self-help skills. We do mindfulness. And when we all have the same supplies, we can be doing it and showing each other. And we made marshmallows the other day. And I really care about sending things home that are educational, but also engaging and motivating, because the last thing my kids want is like 50 packets of paper. My kids are not going to engage with that. And so when it can be hands-on and be the stuff that we do in the classroom, that's, I think, where we get the most engagement. And I think you get a lot of buy-in from parents. My kids need a lot of support from parents and families, and I think they really see and appreciate it.
So what has been like the most difficult for you and like the most rewarding experience?
The most difficult is definitely my like super hands-on kids. I have two that just love to learn in the classroom. They are little machines. They love coloring, they love drawing, they love practicing sounds, and over the computer it just does not translate. I've had my two that work hardest in the classroom are struggling the most, and that has been so hard to see. And I send things home and I talk to parents constantly, but there is just such a disconnect between the screen and, you know, even remembering it's me or different staff. And that's been really hard, because I want to just, I'm so used to like, come on, mira, aquí. Like, I'm, you know, he's so good when you're there, but when you're not, he's running all over the place. He's jumping off the couch, and that's been really hard to see. And we're doing our best, and he's going to do the academic support program, so fingers crossed. But the most rewarding has been the huge growth I've seen in one of our students. She has a ton of skills, and she has just blossomed. She's doing like double-digit addition, and she's fluently decoding. And I think a big part of it is being home and not getting sick. I think a lot of my kids get little colds and flus and little things here and there, and I think being home and safe and not having those sicknesses, they can really work hard.
Oh, nice.
So that's exciting.
That's exciting. That's nice. Number 5. Thank you so much. How do you plan your lessons in order to incorporate individual student goals and to meet the learning needs of all of your students?
Ay, Dios mío. So my weekly schedule consists of whole group, small group, and then individual sessions. So we do whole group. That's going to be the more fun, engaging circle time. And even within a circle time for everyone, I try to build in opportunities for them to share. So, you know, we're reviewing the months of the year, and then everyone shares what month they were born in. And so it's a way to keep it broad, but also individualized a little bit. And then during our individual sessions, I just have full slide decks that are just dedicated to each child's IEP goal. So our kids working on opposites, there's a whole deck on opposites. We're working on addition, some are working on color identification. Wherever they're at, that one-on-one time is when we get to like really hit it hard.
Nice. And number 6, in a knowledge-centered environment, it is important to focus on the kind of information and activities that are introduced to the students. What type of activities and information do you create to see if the students understand the lesson?
That's another one that's so hard during distance learning. In the classroom, you can really see what kids are understanding and what's not. I'm having so much trouble right now with parents and grandparents over prompting the kids. Alex, say da 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 da, like come on, and it's from the best place, but I just want to be like, Grandma, stop, like just wait, like just give him a minute. And so I try my best to present slides that have opportunities for them to receptively identify things, ways for them to expressively draw on their own, use their voices. You know, we have all different kinds of communication in my class, and so, you know, I do everything possible to make sure that they can express themselves in whatever means necessary. And definitely also like having my dual screens, I can see them bigger than I would on one, so that I can really tell, because again, with Mod Severe, it's a lot of little subtle things that, you know, it's not like in Gen Ed where they, you know, A is for apple, and, you know, it's not as clear. It's sometimes it's just and you're like, oh my God, you got it.
Nice. Yeah, right. Since they're like nonverbal, their actions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, number 7. In effective teaching, There are dispositions and indicators of a noble character. From these 4 indicators, which do you possess the most and which do you possess the least, and why? So A is flexibility, B, patience, C, self-awareness, and D, diligence in work habits.
I definitely know that flexibility is my number one. It is one of my core values as an educator, and I think it is the most important part of teaching, especially special ed. I think it is something I work on actively, something I have in me naturally. So definitely flexibility. I think diligence in work habits, I think, would probably be number 2. I think I really stick to things, even if I don't get it done right away. It's always going to get done, whatever it is. And patience, I think I fluctuate. Definitely with some days I'm more patient than others. And self-awareness, I think, is probably an area for growth of just reflection and thinking about the future. So I still have to work on that for sure.
Nice reflection. Thank you so much. Number 8. How do you deal with a student that is being bullying or harassing his fellow classmates? And how do you ensure these disruptive actions do not happen again?
Bullying is not as common in my class because of our language barriers and social interests, but when it comes to gen ed and intervening with, teachers that need support, I think a big part is teaching empathy and perspective taking. So I've supported a few students in gen ed who needed behavior support, and a lot of times I bring them into my classroom, kids that are bullying other kids, and when they kind of see my kids and how hard they work and how wonderful they are, I think it kind of opens people's eyes to diversity and hardships and what it actually means, and that your petty little actions don't mean as much. I think it really helps shift a mindset, and I think that's really important.
Nice. And then number 9. How do you promote an environment that is welcoming, safe, and respectful within your students?
I think the big thing is communication and the way you present yourself. I think when you welcome kids and staff and parents with open arms, I think that's the number one thing to see that you care. Because I think at the end of the day, that's the thing that matters most to people, that you care about them, that you love them, that you're interested in their progress. And so I think it's the way you communicate, being open and transparent. And, I'm the first to say, I don't know that. I'm going to go find the answer, or I'll direct you to someone that does. Because I think that's where a lot of distrust comes from.